No, you're not. No.
All right.
No, you cannot.
You want to go to jail?
I didn't. No.
Come on. I'm not
You
trying. I do
said-
not want to hurt you. Do you want to ride
said
somewhere?
something about
I'll try to
St.
get you a
Joe.
ride. Huh? I didn't say nothing about them.
All
You're
right,
at St.
good.
The moment does not arrive loudly. It slips in while voices overlap and patience thins. What looks, at first glance, like a routine removal carries a different weight. The posture changes. The distance closes. From here on, the path narrows. She is not framed as a patient anymore, not a person waiting for something unfinished. The camera captures a shift that does not need explanation. The room is still the same, but the purpose of everyone inside it is no longer aligned. One side is done listening. The other has nowhere to go. Hospitals are designed to be transitional spaces. You come in, you leave. But for some people, leaving is not a neutral act. Leaving means exposure. It means cold ground, darkness, uncertainty. None of that is visible on the floor tiles, but it presses in all the same. The language becomes shorter. Instructions replace conversation. Each instruction removes an option. The camera wearer does not slow down. There is no pause to recalibrate. Momentum builds quietly, almost politely. What matters here is not what is said, but what is ignored. A request hangs in the air, repeated not because it is complex, but because it has not been acknowledged. The lack of acknowledgement is its own answer. Authority, once asserted, resists being revised. To reconsider would mean admitting the situation is not as simple as it was first defined, and simplicity has already been chosen. There is a subtle performance happening, not for the woman in front of them, but for the system behind them. Compliance is expected. Delay is interpreted. Hesitation becomes something else entirely. The camera tilts. Hands move into frame. Space disappears. From this angle, the hallway looks narrower than it did before. The body language signals a closing door long before an actual door is reached. What could have ended with paperwork or patience begins to harden into something physical. Not all at once, piece by piece, each movement justified by the last. The woman's resistance is not aggressive, it is static, staying where she is, holding ground. That distinction matters less than it should. Stillness is treated as obstruction. Silence as refusal. The environment stops feeling medical. It starts to feel procedural. The tone flattens. The words lose their warmth. What remains is process. This is where outcomes become predictable. Not because of policy, but because of posture. Once hands are placed with certainty, reversal becomes unlikely. The camera does not look away. There is no countdown, no clear marker that says this is the point of no return. But it has already passed. The Bodycam captures something else now. Inevitability, the kind that settles in before anyone says it out loud. Movements are faster. Explanations shorter. Concern, if it exists, is secondary. What happens next is not sudden. It is the result of everything that did not happen earlier. Every moment where listening could have slowed things down. Every choice that prioritized clearing the space over understanding the person in it. By the time force enters the frame, the decision has already been made. The rest is execution. The ground changes the situation immediately. Once someone is down, the balance of power is no longer abstract. It is visible, measurable, heavy. The camera angle drops, sounds sharpen. The environment amplifies distress instead of absorbing it. This is no longer a negotiation, even if the words suggest otherwise. Pain enters before clarity does. It arrives without ceremony. The body reacts faster than language can keep up. The frame fills with fragments, limbs, fabric, concrete. What is striking is not speed, but certainty. The movements are confident, practiced. There is no visible hesitation, no reassessment when resistance shifts into something else. At this point, everything said afterwards serves a different purpose. Not to prevent harm, but to justify what is already happening. Language becomes retroactive. The woman's condition changes, but the response does not. Injury does not interrupt momentum. It is treated as an inconvenience, not a signal. This is where the camera becomes uncomfortable to watch. Not because of chaos, but because of order. Everything proceeds as if nothing unexpected has occurred. The sidewalk is unforgiving. It does not adjust. Bodies do, or they break. There is a moment when pain is clearly communicated. Not argued, not dramatized, stated. It does not slow anything down. The process continues. Once force is applied, options disappear rapidly. Compliance is demanded, even when the body can no longer deliver it. Inability is interpreted as refusal. The camera records a familiar transformation. A person becomes a problem. A problem becomes a task. A task requires completion. What could have been a medical issue is now framed as behavior. And behavior in this context must be corrected. There is no urgency to reassess. No visible concern that the situation has crossed into something irreversible. The priority remains removal. This is where consequences quietly lock in. Injuries that will not announce themselves immediately. Damage that will be explained later, if at all. The woman's voice weakens, not from compliance but from exhaustion. The body signals what words cannot anymore. The environment does not respond. The ground stays cold. The night stays open. By the time assistance is reconsidered, the harm is already done. The return indoors does not undo what happened outside. The camera continues to roll, indifferent to outcome. It captures not resolution, but aftermath. What remains is not control, but residue, pain, confusion, a situation that cannot be walked back. After the force stops, the system does not pause to reflect. It resets. Forms are filled, statements are made. The tone shifts again, as if the previous moments exist in a separate compartment. Injury becomes a question, not a fact. Pain becomes something to verify, not address. The burden subtly shifts back onto the person already harmed. The camera captures disbelief turning into dismissal, not overtly but efficiently. There is little room left for uncertainty. When medical attention resumes, it does so under suspicion. Care is conditional. Trust is thin. The body, however, does not negotiate. Damage reveals itself regardless of narrative. Swelling, immobility, evidence that does not rely on testimony. By now, the situation has fully inverted. What began as a demand to leave has resulted in extended hospitalization. What was framed as resistance has become recovery. Charges appear, briefly anchoring the event to a justification. They will not last. But their presence matters in the moment. They provide structure, an explanation that fits paperwork. Time stretches. Surgeries replace conversations. The cost accumulates quietly, like interest. Outside the frame, systems begin to speak to each other through lawyers and reports. Inside the frame, the damage has already settled. The camera footage remains unchanged. It does not argue. It does not accuse. It simply exists. What stands out in retrospect is how little had to go wrong for this outcome to occur. No chase, no weapon, no immediate threat. Just impatience layered over vulnerability. The escalation did not require malice, only rigidity, only a refusal to adapt once a decision was made. By the end, the question is no longer about a single night or a single interaction. It is about what happens when discretion is replaced by momentum. The woman leaves the hospital again eventually. This time with injuries she did not arrive with debt she did not choose, with consequences that will follow her far beyond this footage. The camera stops recording long before those consequences end. What remains is the quiet danger of systems that move faster than understanding, and the knowledge that once force becomes the solution, every other option disappears with it. Nothing about this outcome was sudden. It was built step by step, decision by decision, until there was nowhere left to stand. And by then, it was already too late.